It seems like a dream deal, a secret pile of properties waiting for you to buy. But with off-market deals rising amid a falling market, are they still worth it? Joining us now for her insights is Amanda Gould, Principal Buyer's Agent with HighSpec Properties. Amanda, thanks so much for being with us. Look,
great to see you again.
You are seeing more off-the-market deals at the moment?
We've seen a dramatic rise in the off-market deals, and in the old days it used to be just the high-end properties, but we're seeing it right across the board in prices at the moment. I mean, I was talking to a Mossman agent last week that said they're up to about 30-something%, maybe 30 to 35% sold off-market, which is, you know, huge.
It is.
I mean, this makes us want to cry a bit because we like properties on the market,
you like the
at auction where we can see them. What's the advantage of having something that's a bit hidden from view?
Look, I think that for my buyers, it's not having as many people that they're competing with. So they can take a little bit more time to decide whether it's right for them instead of being put under pressure. There's a number of things that I think is good, but I think that one really is buying a secret. That's also really appealing to a lot of people. They want to know that they've got something exclusive that nobody else knows about.
Is it risky though? I mean, not going to auction when the price is sort of... I suppose the idea of auction is always to show the property to the maximum amount of people interested, which can be much wider than the scope of perhaps local agents or... Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's wide, even people from interstate or overseas.
Exactly. Look, and a lot of agents like to say, you know, you can't sell a secret or it's harder to sell a secret. Look, I agree to that point because you're not getting as many eyes on the property, but I also have seen some awesome sales done. If an agent really knows their buyers and knows their buyer's agent and can actually marry the two really well together, you can get a really quick sale for the vendor, which the vendor's happy about, as long as both get a win-win and they're getting a good price on both sides. It can work.
As a buyer's agent, it's obviously probably your preferred way to deal with property buying and selling, isn't it?
It can be, although a couple of weeks ago we had one fall over because a vendor changed their mind. So we had signed contracts, we had the 66W.
Really?
Yes, ready to waive their calling off rights. We had the cheque and we were going to do the exchange and they pulled out at the last minute. Now that's never happened before, but because the vendors don't have that vested interest invested in like maybe a marketing campaign or styling, etc. And, you know, they just think, oh, I can change my mind a little easier than if it was on the market.
So do you think it's a good deal for buyers then, pardon me, in that case where they feel like it's that closer negotiation and relying on somebody like yourself and the agent and that relationship for them to work with the agent, to work with the vendor and you with the purchasers? Absolutely.
And I think the thing that that would be worrying for buyers if they didn't have a buyer's agent that knew pricing and really had the robust due diligence that we do is just really knowing the right price, because a lot of people putting properties off market will inflate the price. So unless you really know what you're doing, I mean, the one I bought last week started off at $2 million. We got it for 1.9, which I think is fair market price. We got a bit of a win-win. So they're the sort of things you really need to know.
I mean, obviously, one of the traps potentially is being rushed by the agent and by the buyer's agent as well as the selling agent, do you think? And both of you kind of force the process along a bit faster than people might be ready for?
Look, with an off-market, it could easily turn into an on-market. So if they're saying, look, if we don't get the price that we want, then we're going to put it on market. So that can be a little bit of a threat from the agents. We've got to really work with the agent to understand that. When we're dealing with great agents that know we need a win and they need a win to get the deal done. But yeah, they can feel rushed. So we try not to rush, but when there's a good property and it's a good deal, then we will push forward as quick as, you know, 48 hours, 24 hours to buy a property.
And when a property's off market, sorry James, and how does the agent find out about it? And then how does the agent get their fees in terms of the selling agent? Or do you ever deal with vendors directly and there's no other agent involved?
Sometimes, rarely, but sometimes. So we might door knock a specific street. I once had a client in Mossman only want 10 streets in Mossman. I went to every agent in Mossman and nobody had anything in those pockets for a very long time. So I just decided to door knock the whole street. So that means...
I can imagine you doing that.
Just my client wants to buy
the high heels of it.
And we'd say no to Amanda.
So we did do that, and the good thing about doing that is the vendor doesn't have to pay a fee at all because we get paid by the buyer. So that is, it doesn't happen as much because honestly the time involved in doing that door knocking process, but when you've got a very set specific area to target, it is a little easier.
We know, having you on the show, you're eloquent and elegant, and we know that you're great at what you do, okay. But a lot of that is shrewd negotiation and you do know your market. And the agent that you would expect that you're dealing with in those areas also knows that market. In the auction process, there's transparency. Everything's out in the open. We know the bidding. Is there a risk of some bluff from the agent? I mean, you really know to do this and say, look, this is another person. Do you want to get this over the line? And really, there's not. Whereas in the auction process, that's not happening.
That can happen. It can happen in any negotiation, whether it's on market or off market. For me, we do such a very detailed due diligence and pricing that our spreadsheet is what a valuer would do.
Right.
And we do it for all price points. So when we actually show that to an agent, if they're really saying, oh, it's worth $2 million and it's really only worth 1.9, I put them in front of the spreadsheet, and usually they look at it and go, wow, there's a lot of numbers there.
Yes.
And we'll say, look, that's a south-facing backyard. That's not worth as much as a north. Or that block you're comparing it to is, 50 square metres smaller. Whatever it happens
Based
to be.
on the house 3 doors down.
Yeah, because they'll say a 4-bedroom house and a 4-bedroom house are the same. Well, let's just drill down on that. That 4th bedroom is a study. It's not a bedroom. And that block is south-facing or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, there's always vagaries with every property sale, isn't there? And you do have to get quite specific. So let's get specific now and look at some case studies. You recently came across a unit in Edgecliff. How did you find this sale?
Through an agent that knew I had a lot of flippers, so people wanting to renovate for profit. So this is what this is. I've got a JV ladies that I've gone into a joint venture to buy a property. So it is completely unrenovated and it's got a lovely outlook, as you can see, in the balcony which wraps around. No parking, but I actually got that for $515, and the agents between $525 and $550 the agent wanted, and I still got a saving for that, which was fantastic.
That is an amazing outlook for that part of the world. Edgecliff is very built up. For people who aren't familiar with it, it sort of borders on Bondi and Wallara, and it's in the hub of the eastern suburbs. So that's $515 sounds like a pretty good deal.
Was that a one bedder or was it?
It's a one bed, quite small. It was 40 square metres, including the balcony.
Oh right,
but
that's
the
tiny,
bank,
isn't it?
but it is. But the bank actually still took the balcony into account, which was great for when they were trying to get their finance. But it really, I think, once they do the renovation, they take out a wall in the lounge room. It's going to open it up, and it's just going to be a crash pad for maybe a young, first home buyer.
I'm interested in what you just said then, Amanda. The bank took the balcony in, which is an advantage. Is that because of the extra square meterage being perceived as value?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes they only look at internals. Some bank will only look at internal square metres, but they actually took, because that was the first thing before I even started negotiating, check your bank and make sure that they will look at 40 square metres, including the balcony, not 40 internal.
Yeah, because that outdoor space is a really valuable asset.
Yeah, so that's a great deal. We should be able to see them flip that if they do a really good job, probably between $650 and $680.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on that one.
That space.
Yeah, let us know.
You need to report back.
Yeah.
Now, Maloney Street in Mascot. This is another off-market deal you've done recently.
Yes. So the one in Edgecliff and this one, I was the only person through because of my relationships with the agents. So this was a failed auction last year. I think the owner was expecting just a little bit too much when the market started changing in August last year.
Yeah, we saw some really dicey auctions in that part of the world late last year. There was a lot of fluctuation in the market.
Yeah, so the agent knew I had a client looking in that Mascot area and rang the owner. So that's where you've got a really good agent knowing what buyers agents are looking for and marrying the two together. So we ended up with a 5-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms, really big block, 468 square metres. The owners wanted 2, we got it for 1.9.
Okay, and obviously their figure was wanting higher than to originally from the auction, so they had already come down a little bit. Yeah,
when we actually put the due diligence together and said, look, I mean, I'm still dealing with a budget. I'm not, I've got a client that has only a certain amount of money with the stamp duty and my fee, etc. So I said, look, this is what we can pay, and it was good for the owners because they were older and they're moving away from it, they're downsizing. So they wanted something quick. They didn't want to have to keep the house clean every week and have people traipsing through their house.
And they've done work on it up, renovated.
They've renovated, they've done a lovely job. There's still a little bit to do around the pool that my clients could do if they wanted to, but it's a beautiful home.
I imagine it's only a certain type of vendor, and you'd probably know straight away when you meet them whether this is someone who is going to be interested in getting the deal done swiftly and with minimum fuss, and that's the kind of vendor that an off-market sale would suit, I imagine.
Absolutely, and again, it's going back to the win-win. And I'm very blunt in the way I negotiate. I'll say, look, this is what we've got, this is what we can do, this is the value of what I perceive the property to be. If we can make this work, we're ready to go now with a 66W, waiving the cooling off rights and a cheque because we've done our due diligence. If not, then we'll walk away.
Yeah.
And you have to be, you know, okay to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
Now,
you're a great, tough negotiator with your daughter as well.
Yeah, that's right.
We've got one in Grafton Street in East Lakes, number 12.
Yeah, so this was another great property. There was, I think there was 4 people that actually went through this property, us being one of them. And just an original 1970s house. My client is in the process of finalising the renovation now. So they've completely taken it back to bare bones, new kitchens, bathrooms, walls out, that sort of thing.
right, yeah, they've done a lot to it, haven't they?
Yeah, and it's looking pretty amazing now. And we got that off market, and again, fantastic price.
So sorry, just the photos we were looking at, the property that you purchased was
I
in
think some
brick,
of them were
Yeah.
and then it's
scrambled.
rendered.
Yeah.
So that's all, the work that they've already done.
Yeah, that might be the
I think
work they've
that's
already
the
done.
after shot. I
Yeah,
think we saw a
I would
before shot
expect.
mingled in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, so this
so how
old
long ago
70s
was this deal done, Amanda?
This deal was bought just before Christmas, and we settled in January.
oh, and they've already done all that to it?
Yeah.
So that was the original.
That's the original house.
Yeah,
Wow, they
great
didn't look around, did they?
transformation.
They got stuck right in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've done
and
awesome.
beautiful with those period homes too, to get, you know, just capture the high ceilings and all of that beautiful architrave and skirting, those original details.
Have they done
Absolutely.
all this because they're looking to flip it quickly, or
No.
this is just for them?
This is a family that have been looking for a year before employing our services, and they just wanted to have something that they could, you know, move into. Their school is just around the corner for their daughters, so yeah, really handy for them.
Yeah, and what
long
were the
term.
numbers around this one? What did they pay? What do
We
you
bought that for 1.455, and they originally wanted 1.5 to 1.55.
And what do you think it would be worth now post renovation in this market? Is it
I
easy
think
to...
probably, you know, around the 1.9.
Really?
It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 3-car.
Wow.
So, you know,
That renovation's
I
done
think
a lot.
1.8 to 1.9 would be.
You could go
would
knock
be
on their
fair.
door again and say, hey.
Yeah, it's a big house, really.
We'll just keep
so-
seeing the same house every 2 weeks from Amanda, and it sort of becomes 2-story
Yeah, it's
block
got
of
a pool
apartments.
and- yeah.
We know what you get up
Adding
to.
value.
Suddenly
Now-
it's the Taj Mahal in East Lakes. And, yeah.
Now, we of course are advocates of auction, and we see all the processes of them. But it looks like there are some properties that are suitable for that, for, you know, off-market
Yes.
negotiation. For people who are at home considering this and might be scared of the auction process, or really just want to be sure of the pricing and what they're doing, well, why would people do it? What's some tips for them to consider?
I think that for testing the market, at the moment a lot of things are sitting stale on the market or not achieving what they want at auction, so they're going a little stale, even though there's nothing wrong with the property, so people perceive that there's something wrong. So I think that maybe testing the market like that, not paying for a marketing campaign or styling, and really marrying a buyer, and if it doesn't work, then put it on the market. You know, and agents have their own databases and they can put that out to their network also, so there's a varying degrees of off markets, of course.
And it's also a big cost saver, I would think. If they go to the agent, there might be a commission, but they're saving on auction fees, marketing, advertising and time.
Yeah, and marketing can be anywhere from 8,000 to about 15 would be the average, depending on the home. So it's a big saving.
Yeah. And vendors don't tend to contact a buyer's agent directly, do they?
No, not normally, no.
Okay.
They might now that they've seen it.
They
Now
might.
they've seen you, they're going
You
to
can cut out the middleman
put in
there.
their house one every second week. I have to get that picture out of my head. Amanda Good, always a pleasure to have you on here. I also love to always check out what rings and what you put on. You always have beautiful jewellery. It's very clear to see another way to sell a house, so it's great news, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much.
Great to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, Amanda.